3, 2.
Good Monday morning. Mark Conlock, Director of Horticulture here at Green Bay Botanical Garden. And as you can see, it's a winter wonderland. What is going on? It's October. There's snow on the ground already. It kind of reminds me of the first Mondays with Mark back in the day when we started with snow on tulips. Now we have snow on everything. You know, I've heard of an elephant in the room, but a possum in the kitchen? Are you serious? We're considering becoming an honorary member of the Possum Society of the United States. Just kidding, just kidding. There's a lot of interesting critters here at Green Bay Botanical Garden. Sometimes they get where they're not supposed to go. But we do a few things here, and this is the time of the year where we start doing some of our critter control. Be kind to critters. Back here we have a plant called a tree peony. It's actually a woody plant. It's a peony, which you think of as a garden peony where you cut back, but this one actually has a woody stem, and we have to protect those from mostly voles and rabbits chewing on them. So we use this hardware cloth here. We'll cut it to the right size to fit around this entire tree peony. I'm not going to cut it right here, but we'll use tin snips to cut that. So get this hardware cloth from your local store. Kind of push up the stems here. We usually wait till the leaves fall off. With the snow, it's a little weird right now. But this is one of the things you can do to protect some of your new trees too, like newly planted trees where you don't want the vole or a rabbit to girdle the stem, which will kill the plant. So we'll put this hardware cloth around here. Once we cut it to the right size, we'll use zip ties to zip it together. It's the same thing we use to put up our lights in the light show. And then we'll use these sod pins here to hold this down so that the animals can't get underneath there. You know, if you wanted to, you could take a soil knife or something and make a little trench, but usually these sod pins hold it down, and you can hold it down really tight so they can't burrow underneath there once the ground freezes. So, you know, besides we're finishing planting bulbs, we're hanging our light bulbs. This is one of the next jobs we have to do here, and with it being cold, we're going to have to get it done pretty fast because we want to try to do it before the ground freezes. Otherwise, it's hard to get those sod pins in the ground. So, protecting our high valuable specimens from critters is one of the things we have to do here, and one of the things you could do in your own yard. Another big job we have to do here at Green Bay Botanical Garden is cut down the perennials over our 23.5 acres of gardens. Some gardens will leave up. We started leaving up the grand garden because of all those native plants. It's great habitat for overwintering insects and all their different life stages. It's the seeds are there for the birds, and it also provides habitat, you know, for other animals out there, including possums perhaps. So you can, in your own garden, decide, do you like the look of all of this? It's nice winter interest, but then you have to do all the work of the cutback in the springtime when oftentimes snow can be on the ground like this, or it's wet and soggy and hard to get in there into your planting beds, and you don't want to hurt the soil structure by going onto wet soil. Also, there's a lot of other things happening in the springtime here at the Botanical Garden with all of our early events and starting all our seeds, so we don't really have the time. So we start to do that right now over a large portion of our garden. So think about your time management too. So I'm going to step over here, because when you're doing the cutback, there's a lot of different ways. I mean, you can use your little hand pruner if you just have a few plants in a small perennial garden. And, you know, all it is cutting back these stems a couple inches from the ground here. And you can see the snow makes it a lot harder of a job. So typically we don't like to do it in the snow, and we try to get it done before that happens, but that is Mother Nature and we can't predict what's going to happen. Or if you have a lot of perennials, you can use a hedge shear like this, where you do a similar type of thing and you cut everything back, and it can go faster than having to just use that little hand pruner to do things. But you also can have like this big mess here that then you'll rake up, you know, with like a little baby rake here or a big garden rake to get out of there. The other thing we do here at the Botanical Garden is, because we have so much space, we have our hedge trimmer here that'll unsheath for you. You know, a gas-powered hedge trimmer, or you could use electrical-powered hedge trimmer. And we take that and do it where we cut down all of the foliage. Make sure you have the proper safety equipment, ear protection, eye protection, gloves, which I have in my golf cart back here. And you can go crazy with that. One thing I've recently learned about that we've thought about doing but haven't is like leaving the plant material by cutting it a bunch of times, because you know in nature plants don't have a bunch of mulch hanging out around them, and they don't like clean themselves up and rake their debris into a pile. You know, they just live in their old material. So it's something we thought about, but you don't want to do that if you have, you know, diseased foliage, you know, that you would have those spores to come back the next year. That's something you wouldn't want to necessarily have it hanging out in. And there's just a lot of things to think about. The other thing we have to do here at Green Bay Botanical Garden is we have literally, like, you know, thousands, like say 6,000 signs to avoid, and the same amount of all these accession labels, so that gets to be a challenge, so we don't hit those with the hedge trimmer and that kind of thing. Luckily in your own backyard you don't have to worry about that. But needless to say, the cutback is a huge job. The thing I was going to point out too is over here there are a couple plants that we don't actually cut back, and this is one of them. It's a hardy hibiscus. Because that takes so long to come back in the springtime, you know, to break bud from underground, if you will, and start coming up, we leave it there to remind us we have it there, so we don't accidentally like plant something in that spot, since it takes so long to emerge from the ground. So that's another humongous job we have to do at the garden here still, that you might have to do in your own yard, depending on if you want to leave stuff up or cut stuff down. The one kind of like, I want to mention this weird in-between thing we've done is in the grand garden, where we cut it back last spring after, you know, we let it up all winter. When we put it into our compost pile, usually we have a big pile, but last year what we did is we made a line along the whole woods edge so that we had more space for that to spread out and hopefully not, you know, get hot in the compost pile and kill any overwintering insects and things like that. So that was something we tried to do a little different last year to see if we could increase the amount of insects in the habitat. Alright, my other thing back here, sorry. My other tip here for a thing we're doing at the garden that you might need to do in your own yard is put some burlap on to protect conifers. You know, pretty much what we do here is our arborvitaes. We do not do this giant hedge here, but some of our smaller ones and ones where we've had a lot of deer pressure, you know, eating on them, we've put this burlap on here. Some like small ones like this, we can just put this sack over the top of it, ching, and then tie it with a little bit of twine to hold it tight, and then we're good to go. Others, we have big sheets of burlap that we wrap and hold on with the twine, and it's mostly for us, it's to protect our conifers from deer. And then you could use it to protect from salt spray too. So you've probably seen people with that done. If we didn't have deer here, we wouldn't have to do it, because really we didn't do it for quite a long time until we've had a lot of deer pressure the last few years. So those are a couple of tips, a couple of things we still have to do here at Green Bay Botanical Garden, despite the snowfall and the fact that it seems like it's winter already. So check out our website for more information, gbbg.org, or our Facebook page.